At Battery Bill, we power everything by battery. It's not if an emergency happens, but when. Are you ready? Be prepared for this hurricane season. Having backup power ready for these necessities, home, refrigerator, and phone are essential for peace of mind to have uninterrupted power during an emergency. Do you need an affordable, reliable backup power solution? We have it. Goal Zero, Jackery, and EcoFlow. Reliable, innovative, and affordable. Power when you need it. Battery Bill, Mapuno-Puno, Nimitz, and Hilo. Battery Bill.
All right, how's it going, everybody? It is episode 114. That's all right, episode 114 here on Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helly, Hunter Hughes back with you, our guy Jonathan on the controls again. We record this Wednesday, November 1st. That's right, on into the final month of the season at 7 a.m. Hawaii time. Sets release this as usual. Our Thursday release date, that'll be tomorrow when you get this, Thursday, November 2nd. Big thanks to Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill for sponsoring this episode of HFN. Quick opening drive. We mentioned we hit the home stretch, the final month of the season. Just 4 games left. It's kind of blown by at the same time. It has felt like a trudge with the way things are going on the current 4-game losing streak for the University of Hawaii. Basically, we hit the final third of the 2023 campaign. Homecoming, a bit of a bust on the field, except for one Chevin Cordero. But that'll be our little quick opening drive here, Hunter. Homecoming, always special, right? Obviously for alums such as yourself. They honored the 1973 team for the University of Hawaii, which is the 50th anniversary, basically, of that team and that memorable upset, one of the biggest wins in program history when they went up to Seattle and defeated the University of Washington. Some familiar names as part of that team, right? Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi was an assistant coach on that 1973 team. June Jones was a backup quarterback on that 1973 team. Levi Stanley, some of the others as well. So that was pretty cool. And arguably the highlight of the night, seeing them honored between quarters there on the field at the Clarence T.C. Ching Athletic Complex. Swim and dive team got their MPSF championship rings from last season, by the way. Also one of the highlights of the game. But before we get into the action on the field, Hunter, homecoming, man, what was the atmosphere like there from your vantage point on the field? I was there, I actually had a wedding to go to. So I took this game via replay, if you will, on the old DVR. But cool to see the 73 team there, man. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of legends in the program. And, of course, obviously, it's always going to be a big deal when June's around town. And to have him come, I think says a lot about, kind of his support for Timmy and the current state of things.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up the 73 team. I was thinking about it just watching them, that if those guys were playing football in 1973 and fast forward to now, 50 years later, you've got Rick Blangiardi as our mayor, and people are still wanting June Jones as our coach. It was kind of an encouragement to me that life is prayerfully long, and to not get so bogged down if things aren't going your way this week or next week. Like, you got a lot of time in front of you. Where, it was 6 years ago that I was playing at UH. It just kind of put things in perspective. Like, wow, those guys played in 73. That was a long time ago. But anyway, homecoming's always cool. This week also was the 100th anniversary of the band, of the Rainbow Warrior Marching Band. And so there were 3 times the amount of band members down there because they had alumni come back and play. They just packed the field with band members. And also it was a Halloween situation. So costumes were everywhere. The field was littered, and I mean littered, with alumni, former players from my eras before. And an enormous support for Chevin Cordero. The amount of blue and black shirts with Cordero and the number 2 on the back there, pretty much everybody that would normally be rocking St. Louis stuff was rocking a Chevin Cordero shirt. So that was very encouraging for me to see. Obviously, I have nothing but love for Chev. Was the most immediate generation right after whenever I left, and I was stoked to see the warm kind of reception for him, where it could have been any number of things. Whenever you welcome back your former quarterback who went and played against a conference rival just across the pond, so um, I was stoked to see that. Stoked to not hear any boos down there. And then without getting into the game just yet, Jordan, it was cool to experience the festivities before the game kind of let us down.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear about all the alums coming back, right? Because I think that says a lot about their support for the program. I kind of forgotten it was the weekend leading into Halloween because I had the wedding. Then I saw everybody's post of all the Halloween parties they were at, like over the weekend, and folks in costume, and I was like, oh yeah, it's Halloween. So hopefully you had a safe and fun Halloween to all the listeners out there who celebrated last night. But yeah, it was a big bummer because with all of the festivities, with all of the alums back in the building, all the former players, some of the greats, it was arguably one of the worst losses in a long time. In fact, it's the worst home loss. You could argue maybe going back to about 10 years, but it's the worst in a sense where they got shut out for the first time in a long time at home. Shut out for the first time in a long time overall. We'll get into some of those bleak numbers here in just a second. But as Hunter pointed out, life hopefully long, fruitful, and there are many brighter days ahead. And we will try to keep that in mind as we go throughout episode 114. And before we get into game time, we want to remind you that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, game time here. We talked about some of the bright spots off the field, or at least surrounding the field, on the field. Well, it was a little rough, right? It's a lot of folks asking, is this rock bottom? They were asking that last week after the 42-21 loss at New Mexico. Remember, this was the stretch, right? This was the stretch that we felt like, hey, Hawaii had a chance to maybe make a little bit of a move. They are now 0-3 in that stretch, that 4-game stretch, the San Diego State, New Mexico, and San Jose State. And they've obviously got Nevada coming up this weekend. We'll talk about the Wolfpack in the second half of today's podcast. And so to answer the question of, is this rock bottom? I hope so. Like, I hope it's bounced back from here, right? Can I tell you for certain? No, not the way things have been trending over the last 4 weeks, where they have lost 4 in a row since that thrilling comeback victory over New Mexico State. They're 0-4 in conference. Hawaii gets shut out for the first time since 2017. It's been a while. 38-0 at Utah State. At least that one was on the road, right? It was a bit of a rough 2017 season. That was kind of the bridge year.
I remember that one.
Rolo. Yeah, Hunter will probably remember that one fondly. But to add a little salt to that wound, if you will, it's the first time Hawaii has been shut out at home in a quarter century. Like, it's been 25 years when they were shut out 28-0 against SMU in that infamous 1998 season. It was actually the second of back-to-back home shutouts. Arkansas State, I think, got them the week before, as has been reported. So, yeah, you got to go back to 98, which, again, about the low point of the program when they went winless. And that's the last time Hawaii was shut out at home. San Jose State defeating Hawaii 35-0. Spartans led it 21-0 at halftime as they go on to retain the Dick Tomey Legacy Trophy. Rainbow Warriors falling to 2-7 on the season, 0-4 in the Mountain West. I think this goes without saying, but they are now out of automatic bowl contention. The best they can finish if they run the table the rest of the way is 6-7. That'll probably get them in the way things are shaping up. But that's pie in the sky type stuff. If they could somehow get to 6-7. It's the fourth straight win for San Jose State versus the University of Hawaii. I'll just get some more of these bleak numbers out of the way, Hunter, before we get your reaction. Hawaii's been shut out in the first quarter for the last 5 games. They've committed at least 1 turnover in 8 of the 9 games this season. After not losing a fumble, the first 4 games of the season, Hawaii's lost a fumble in each of the last 5 and 7 total. Shout out to UH Sports Information Department, Neil Uemoto, Derek Inuuchi for compiling some of these numbers, I'm sure, which wasn't fun. UH just lost the turnover battle in 7 of the 9 games, and in the other 2, they were even. So they haven't won the turnover battle in a single game this season. 3 more turnovers, giveaways against San Jose State. Hawaii is combined for 11 turnovers in their last 3 games. Understandable that they have now lost 4 in a row. The slow starts have been well documented, but Hawaii has now been outscored 196-78 in the first half this season, including 97-24 in the first quarter. They've trailed at halftime in 8 of their 9 games. The only one was they were tied, right, 17-all against UAlbany. And in terms of just how bad they've been to start games, Hawaii's 9-play drive to start the game, it was really their opening possession because they muffed the opening kickoff, right? So technically their second crack at it, but really it was their first drive. 9 plays, which only went 29 yards, took 3:08 off the clock. That was like the longest opening drive in terms of plays, yards, and time off the clock. 9 plays, 29 yards, 3:08. That's been the best output on their first crack with the football all season long. So that's just a lot of different ways to say that it's rough right now. They're in a bad shape. They're not a good football team right now. I don't think we're piling on. I think that's just a kind of a fact of the matter. Obviously, you look for some of the bright spots. You look for some of the silver linings for a team that's obviously trying to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. But again, I wasn't there. I consumed this a little differently, and I can give my take here and kind of how I viewed it. But you were there on the sideline, Hunter, obviously covering it for us on our ESPN Honolulu broadcast. Your takeaways of the 35-0 homecoming loss for Hawaii.
It started very interesting. The opening kickoff from San Jose, Cam Stone caught it and got obliterated. And not sure if he's still in concussion protocol or not, but I mean, brother man got smoked and fumbled the football. And San Jose took over on our 10-yard line. That was the first play of the game. And then we stopped them. Had like a goal line stand, stopped them, and then they elected to kick a field goal, and he missed it. So it was like, wow, we pulled that one out of our hats. And all right, let's see if we can do anything from here. And we couldn't. That to me, honestly, was the high point of the night, other than Matt Shipley running a fake punt in the third quarter. And by the way, Jordan, Shipley was our leading rusher for the evening. So if that puts anything into perspective, you don't want your punter to be the leading rusher for a game. So outside of the performance, I really wish I could spin it another way. I love our team. I really like this coaching staff. The players look like they gave up. It looked like they ran out of they ran out. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, Jordan, but there was very little spirit on the sideline, especially on the offensive end. There was little to no motivation or spirit that I could tell. At least, after a couple 3-and-outs, I'd love to see someone come to the sideline and just get angry, but it was dead, man. It was dead on our sideline. And as a former player, it just bums you out to see that. And on the opposite side, it seemed like Chev could do anything he wanted to against us. And it went from mediocre to bad to worse pretty quickly in this game.
Yeah, it was it looked like a team that was a bit demoralized, especially in the second half. I thought, obviously that third touchdown late in the first half that made it 21 to nothing goes from 14 to nothing to 21 to nothing. Basically right before the break. Kind of seemed to break a lot of spirits, because yeah, you go in 14 nothing at halftime, okay, maybe the offense can pull themselves together. The defense for the most part, um, you know, played better at times. And we'll get into third down because obviously that's the story of the ball game. But their ability to prevent a score after basically San Jose State taking over to start the ball game inside the 10-yard line. Um, there was some fight there on the defensive side of the football, I thought. In the first couple of quarters. I think at some point it wears down, but it just, it just feels, I think, and watching it a little bit, because again, I consume this a little bit differently, right? I fast forward through between plays and things like that. And and when you watch it a little more piecemeal like that, it's like, hey, there were some good moments, I think that get lost a little bit when you're consuming that thing in real time, because I'm usually down there on the sideline with you, Hunter. But there were some good
Yeah.
moments, especially on defense, on first and second down in particular. And it's like, boy, man, these third down gun punches are just brutal. And then offensively, you saw a little bit of something, right? There was some movement early on. There was a little better pass protection. They just couldn't sustain anything. There were some missed throws. There were some miscommunications in the passing game. Their inability to run the football is just, a complete hindrance to what they're trying to do offensively, and put so much pressure on everybody involved in the passing game, from Shager to the O-line to the receivers to the running backs and protection. It's so tough. But larger picture, it just felt like a team that, this wave, this sort of avalanche of, yeah, negativity is maybe not the right word, but you know, pressure that comes down when you're chasing every single game. Like we talked
Yeah.
about it, right? They've trailed at halftime in 7 of the 9 or 8 of the 9 games. The only other one was Albany. Um, when you're chasing every single game, when you're getting off to the slow starts, and look, a lot of this is self-imposed. It's not like they're victim of their circumstance or anything like that. Like a lot of this is their own doing. But when you're when it's every single week that's the case, that's a lot. That's a lot to have to kind of shoulder, right? Where it's like, hey, we gotta grit, we gotta bite down on the bit, we gotta pull ourselves up like every single week.
Yeah.
That adds up at some point, and
It does.
and it was the case again this week. I think it was the case a little bit last week, even though they were able to score some points in the first half against New Mexico on the road. This week they just couldn't get everything going, and I think that is just a hard thing to fight off, when it comes to human nature. And again, it's not an excuse, and again, it's not like they are, this has been thrust upon them. Like they it's their own doing. Like they need to be better to start football games. They need to be better in the red zone. They need to be better on third down, and all of a sudden your life becomes a little bit easier. But to trail every single week out of the gate, and to have to, that New Mexico win it took a lot of effort, right? New Mexico State win, I should say, at home, right? Like that can't be every week. And we're finding that out, right? Like it's just not replicable. It's hard to bottle that up every single week, where you're gonna, like, pat yourself on the back, and rightfully so in that moment. But man, that is not a good recipe. Like that's not a sustainable way to exist in really any sport, but especially college football, right? Like this it's rough, and I think a lot of that kind of swept over the team, and the question going forward is going to be, how can they pull themselves together? Like they've got a month left. There's still a fair amount of the season left. It'll go by in a blink. Don't get me wrong. 2 on the road, 2 at home, including the conference closer against Colorado State. But there's a lot of season left. This can really spiral. It can get real bad, or they can kind of pull themselves out. I'll kind of give you, I've been going on for a little bit here, Hunter, so I don't want to
No,
monopolize all the
that's
time, but I'll get into some of the numbers here in a second. But yeah, curious on your thoughts as to kind of how they they stabilize things, if you will. Right the
Yeah,
ship, bail some water a little faster.
it's funny you said ship. I'm thinking about it from the perspective of a car. It's almost when you are driving kind of a hand-me-down old Honda Civic or something like that, and you got to rev that thing at 7,000 RPMs just to get it up Ward Avenue. um, I've done that, by the way.
Sounds
And
like, yeah, a little experience.
oh man, you are living on a prayer that you can make it all the way up. And it feels like every time we go out there and play football, it's kind of like that. We're needing as much effort that we can put in. We're needing all of the breaks to go our way. We're needing each position group to be assignment perfect. And if one screw is not in, if one thing is overlooked or not executed exactly right at the exact moment, it all goes downhill. That's at least what it feels like to me. And um, the effort is there, and that's why I bring up the car analogy, where anyone who says that they don't care anymore, or they're just outright doing this on purpose, it could not be further from the truth. Those guys are playing hard. It's just I think it's just the state of the team kind of right now. And unfortunately, with injuries and also some transfer portal news these last couple of weeks, not completely transfer portal news, by the way. A couple of those were kind of influenced by disciplinary actions, and that happens at this point of the season when you're on a bad team. Is guys lose interest, guys lose discipline, and they start behaving poorly. And Timmy and the staff are doing everything that they can to keep the ship afloat right now. And if you're not able to uphold to the code of conduct that we've agreed upon, is this is the standard of our team, you got to go. It's one of those things that it's a difficult call to make, but we're starting to see that on this team too. So they are going through a lot right now, Jordan. It's unfortunate, but that is the state of the team right now.
Yeah, and that's guys transfer out, but you expect a bit of turnover when a season's going like this, right? It's hard to get everybody to continue to hold on to the rope and for discipline or whatever, right? We saw Grayson Morgan enter the transfer portal earlier in the season. Jordan Johnson announcing he's in the portal. It was reported last week that he was no longer on the team. A few days after that, he announced that he was entering the portal via social media. Jalen Walthall, the latest to enter the portal as well, as he announced on social media as well. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of turnover there. Guys obviously injured. It was good to see Elijah Palmer back on the field after missing a couple of games, got hurt in that UNLV game. I believe it was the UNLV game. Tylen Hines continues to, miss some time due to injury, and he's obviously a big loss. That running back position is pretty darn depleted right now. Yes. Guys like Najee Bryant-Lele also unavailable, and the Jordan Johnsons entering the transfer portal, and so they've been basically left with Solo Vaipulu and Sims, at running back, and they just haven't been able to really get much going. And so as you look at it, right, Hawaii losing 35-0, San Jose State covering its 11.5-point favorites, the under, way under of the 57.5 that usually happens when one team gets shut out. Hawaii now 2-6-1 against the spread, and the over is now 5-4 on the season. Hawaii setting new season lows in total offense, 198 yards total, first downs with 14, and pass completions with 20 in the game. But offensively, you kind of just got to look at the drive chart. 6 of their 10 drives, Hunter, on Saturday were 4 plays or fewer. Like 6 of their 10 drives, 4 plays or fewer. Obviously, we mentioned the 9-play drive to start the ball game that only went 29 yards. That was, their longest drive of the ball game in terms of plays. They also had that 9-play 44-yard drive early in the third quarter that ended in an interception. And then they had the 11-play drive late in the ball game that ended in a pick as well with Jake Farrell out there. So, yeah, it was, again, basically over half of their possessions were 4 plays or fewer. The defense was on the field a ton in the ball game, in part because the offense couldn't get anything going, and in part because they couldn't get off the field on third down, right? San Jose State 11 of 16 on third down, basically the majority of that coming in the first half. I mean, the numbers were just kind of mind-boggling. They got the stop on that opening possession, were able to force them to kick a field goal that they missed. Kyler Halverson, former Hawaii player, Kaiser graduate back home, was able to convert on all 5 of his PATs after that. But then San Jose State converts on 9 straight first downs to end the half. On 9 straight third downs, I should say, on which Chevin Cordero was 8 of 9 for 140 yards on third down in the first half. Like, just on third down in the first half.
He was a magician of getting out of the pocket.
Man.
If we did get pressure on him, I forgot how great of a scrambler and how elusive he was. I mean, Jordan, he made a couple of throws on the run where I was like, those are just stupid. And if you have that back there, it is such a luxury to have.
Yeah, and I thought they did a really good job of kind of mixing that in, right? They clearly this year want to be like a power run team, and it was a lot of straight handoffs, right? He was under center a ton in that ball game, and then so you're not fully reliant on Chevin having to be Chevin, but on third downs they let him loose, a little bit of the zone read game, some of the play action passing game. It was interesting, right? He's a much different quarterback than what we saw at times at the University of Hawaii in the run and shoot, and even in the Todd Graham era. And just a really kind of poised veteran guy back there. San Jose State, Hawaii 5 of 15 on third down. So again, not great. San Jose State time of possession 35-11. But really the first half is where it tells. They basically held the football for 2/3 of the first half. I think their time of possession in the first half was like around 20 minutes or something like that. Just brutal. And again, it was, for a defense, and I kind of go back to, watching the game on the replay and fast forwarding through some of the stuff. It's like, man, you saw a lot of really good things from that defense on winning on first down. It was kind of the opposite of what we've seen from this group, where I thought first down had always been the problem, right? They give up 5 yards or so on first down. All of a sudden it's third and short. It's hard to get off the field that way. But it wasn't the case on first and second down. It's good things, getting into the backfield, playing the run better, 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 12s, putting them in tough positions. But San Jose State on third down, just continuously gut punches, man, just body blows, conversions, throws over the middle, back shoulder throws in the end zone. Twice Hawaii calls timeout on defense on third down, and then San Jose State, boom, touchdown right after, right? And they end up using all 3 of their first half timeouts on defense, in part because they were on the field so long. But it was just, boy, if they get off the field on any one of those drives, right? Even the one they do come up with a stop on third down, the drive gets extended because of a silly unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, after the play. And then after that, it was all downhill. Like, that's when the 9 straight third down conversions happened for this group. And unfortunately, it was Jalen Smith, who I thought played a pretty decent game overall. Isaiah Tufanga, the linebackers, I thought played pretty well. And then on third down, everybody looked like, they weren't there. It was a different group than we saw on first and second down. Defensive line played a little bit better against the run, but then they just started wearing down, right? When you look at it, San Jose State ended up running for 217 yards. Just started grinding away. Hawaii ran for 52 in this ball game on 20 attempts. That's not a great average. Chevin throws for 251. Hawaii as a team throws for 146. Just not going to cut it. We talked about Hawaii under 200 yards total offense. San Jose State 468 of total offense. Hawaii just 5 penalties for 40 yards. But we mentioned It just came at really bad times. Some defensive penalties. The unsportsmanlike was not good, obviously. And so, there's some individual numbers you can dive into. And we can get to that here in a second. But yeah, it was just the third downs. It was kind of mind-boggling to just see it happen continuously over and over again.
Absolutely, man. It was it's one thing that led to the next, and before you know it, we're down 4 scores, and in the third quarter trying to do something, but in all reality can't really do anything. So it was just one of those things. I wish that it was a different narrative, and good thing for us is that we still have games in front of us, and we have time to kind of decide what kind of football team we want to be. I know that's not great on a lot of terms, and we would have obviously liked a much better showing at home for homecoming, but that is where we're at.
Yeah, that is where we're at. That is where we're at for this group, and they're going to need to make some decisions, I think, and maybe we'll see some different faces or whatnot. Jake Farrell, we saw him for the first time in his career in a game. He goes 3 of 8 with an interception, 14 total yards. I wouldn't say it looked drastically different. It was kind of an interesting game because, again, kind of watching it, even on offense, there was a little better pass protection early on. Braden Shager showed a little bit with his legs, a little bit more than we've seen in most games. But it snowballs quickly on you, where you're just trying to hold up the dam, and then it bursts, and kind of a microcosm of the season, where it just kind of, once they got that third touchdown, it was rough the rest of the way. Kind of like this season where they got through the non-conference 2-3, and since then 0-4 in the Mountain West. As Shager goes 17 of 29 for 132 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. First game without a touchdown for Shager throwing since the Duquesne game early last season. You already pointed out Matt Shipley was our leading rusher as the punter on the fake punt, picked up 17 yards. Landon Sims 4 carries for 15 yards. Solo Vaipulu 1 carry for 14. Jake Farrell 2 carries for 9 yards. Dalen Morris 1 carry for 3 yards. I almost like to see him more out there. Just mix him in. Little Wildcat looks. Because when he gets in there, good things happen, seem to be. We haven't seen him as much as we saw him early in the season. Shager, technically 11 carries, a net of -6. When you include the sack yardage, just pick up 32 yards positively in that, and then lost 38 on the 4 sacks that he endured. Alex Perry leading the way for the receivers, 4 for 42. Stephen McBride, 3 for 32. Nick Senecal had a 21-yard grab. Kwali Nishigaya, 2 catches for 17 yards. Jonah Pinoke, 3 for 15. Landon Sims, 3 for 10. Solo Vaipulu, 2 for 5. A nice little shovel pass in there. Tamato Mokiel Ati Malala, 1 grab for 4 yards. And then Pofele Ashlock was just 1 catch for a net of no gain on that one. You saw Carson Wapuno and Chucky Hines get some targets as well. 21 yards, the longest pass play of the game for Shager. That accounted for, like 1/7 of his total. San Jose State just didn't give up the big pass play, and Hawaii's offense, who has been so reliant on that, we saw a bit of the results. Defensively, Peter Manuma, again, right in the middle of things. He and Mekipe leading the way in terms of tackles. Manuma with 7, Mekipe with 6. Berto Edwards had 6 as well. Probably not where you want it if your 3 defensive backs are leading the team in tackles, but Jalen Smith had 5. Including 3 for loss. Again, he was in the backfield a lot. Nalo Emerson with 5, Noah Kem with 5, Elijah Robinson with 5, including a sack in the ball game. Isaiah Tufunga with 4, and he had that big forced fumble. So again, there were some good moments, like the forced fumble, got the football back. I think it was only 7-0 at that point. Hawaii couldn't do anything with it offensively. So yeah, you saw moments, but it spiraled really quickly for this group. Hunter, any final thoughts on San Jose State before we take a little break and look ahead to Nevada this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever had the Dick Tomey Trophy, to be honest.
They've won it
Maybe.
4 years in a row. Trying to think back. Yeah. 2019, maybe.
Okay, so like the first couple of years that it was a thing,
Yeah.
and
I'm
then
trying to think when coach passed away.
because I remember the announcement came when I was a player, but I it seemed like maybe we did well at the beginning, but this has been their trophy for a while.
Yeah, well, they won it 4 in a row, including 3 of those 4 in Hawaii, right? Remember they had to move the COVID year game to Hawaii and kind of yeah. Whew. 2019, the winner of the game received. Yeah. So I think Hawaii got it the first year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That was it
I
so
think
far.
that about says it up for any more comments I have on San Jose.
All right, that sounds good to me. We'll take a quick break here and then transition to Nevada. We'll get into some of your comments as well when we return with a little more of Hawaii football now. You're listening to episode 114.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, back with you here on HFN. Jordan Hunter and our guy Jonathan as well. It's episode 114 on Hawaii Football Now, and it is Nevada coming up this weekend as Hawaii goes back on the road, right? It's basically every other week in Mountain West Conference play for the Bows. Hawaii at the Wolfpack. That's a 10 a.m. Hawaii kickoff on ESPN Honolulu Radio. The Veneri brothers will be up there in Reno, bringing you all the coverage. You can watch it on Spectrum pay-per-view as well. Nevada, at last check, I'll double check this. This was yesterday. They were 3.5-point favorites, opened at 4. I think it actually climbed to 4.5, and then has since been bumped down to 3.5, and it remains 3.5. The total is 50.5 going into Saturday's matchup against Nevada. 2 programs in very similar spots, right? Hawaii's won 5 games in the last 2 seasons, basically last year and this year, under a brand new head coach, under an alum. Nevada in a very similar spot. They've won 4 games in the last 2 seasons. And this was the game on the schedule. I think, most would have circled this maybe the most winnable of games for the University of Hawaii. This is the New Mexico game. It obviously didn't go well in New Mexico. And so we'll see if Hawaii can right the ship, as Nevada has kind of done the last couple of weeks. The Wolfpack 2-6, 2-2 in the Mountain West, riding a streak of 2 straight wins after starting the season 0-6. If you remember, they got kind of worked by FCS Idaho at home in week 2 of the season. They've kind of pulled themselves out a little bit, defeating San Diego State in San Diego. Won that one 6-0, by the way. The old 6-0 score in 2023 college football. Almost had to double check on that one. And then last week played really well against New Mexico, defeating the Lobos 34-24, a New Mexico team that obviously was riding the high of the Hawaii win. They ran for 180 yards last week against New Mexico. Remember, Hawaii just gave up 217 to San Jose State on Saturday. 27th all-time meeting. Hawaii leads at 16-10. These 2 teams meeting every year, basically, going back to the WAC and then on into the Mountain West for the last couple of decades. 2022, last year, was that one of the 3 Hawaii wins, right? Hawaii winning that one 31-16, as Ken Wilson in his first year went 2-10, 0-8 in the Mountain West Conference. That was a weird year for them. They won their first 2 and lost 10 straight. And so, Hunter, this is a Nevada team that seems to be trending in the right direction, a Hawaii team that is not. What do you make of this ball game on the road? Again, we similar, I think, vibes to that New Mexico game, but a team even more in desperate need of a win right now.
The circumstances of this game have certainly changed from beginning of the year till right now, where we were hoping that this game, and preferably a win on the road, would be hopefully one of the last couple of games that we would need to get us into bowl contention, and we could circle that game as a really good chance to get a dub. But this is kind of turning into the battle for dead last in the Mountain West, Jordan. Unfortunately, I don't think that is too much of a negative overstatement. That's just where we're at. Hawaii is the only team without a win in the Mountain West right now, and Nevada, believe it or not, is on a winning streak. They've won their last two. Um, this is absolutely going to be one of those games, I think, to me, where Hawaii, do you want to show what you're made of, or are we going to kind of fold over and die for the season? It kind of feels like that, and you know, they are not great. Um, if we got the Hawaii team from the Vanderbilt game or the San Diego State game, minus the turnovers, of course, um, we should dust this team, dust them. But that's kind of been the tale of Hawaii this year, has been, what kind of Hawaii team are we going to get on a week in, week out basis, whether it's personnel, whether it's disciplinary things or focus. It's just, we don't always get the same Hawaii team week in, week out. So in terms of execution, of course, is what I'm referring to in output. But if we can get it around 30, like we've been saying all year, Jordan, we can get it around 28, around 30. I like our chances. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking heading into this game against Reno.
Start faster. That'd be a great
Yeah.
way to go about it, because as you point out, like they don't score a ton of points, and some of that is skewed by the fact that they played USC on the road. They played Kansas in Reno. They've played at Fresno. They played at Texas State. But only one game in conference have they scored more than 30, and that was obviously last week against New Mexico. And so it's a game that, yeah, again, these are those kind of show me games, right? Where if Hawaii's gonna pull themselves out, like, you got to be able to. New Mexico went 0-8 in conference last year. Reno went 0-8 in conference last year, and they've already lost on the road at New Mexico. It's a Nevada team that averages 18 points per game. Like, that's what they're scoring. Again, skewed a little bit by some of their opponents, but they allow 32.6 points per game. They run it for 130. They pass it for 181. They average 311 yards of total offense. Like, it's not some juggernaut. That's not the case. They ran it obviously very well last week against New Mexico. They give up 178 yards on the ground. They give up 281 yards through the air. Maybe that bodes well for Hawaii, right? They don't have a great pass defense. They allow 459 and a half yards of total offense. We mentioned Ken Wilson in his second year in charge of the program, 4-16 overall. Hawaii's going to have to start stringing some things together. Going to have to start stringing some plays together for this group, no doubt about it. And it's a Nevada team led by Brendan Lewis, who's their main ball carrier, along with Sean Dollars, Dylan Hopkins, DeLavion Campbell, big play receiver. Jamal Bell is kind of their possession receiver, and then their quarterbacks. Brendan Lewis is their main guy. We've seen a lot of AJ Bianco, the Lahaina native St. Louis grad, in there as well. Seen a fair amount of him. But Brendan Lewis's numbers, forget the stats, the completion, things like that. He's got 2 touchdowns, 6 picks. Not necessarily lighting it up. Again, a lot of their success the last couple of weeks has come on the ground and from their defense as well. And so, yeah, I think as you pointed out, Hunter, right, the team with a chance to kind of decide how the rest of the season is going to play out. It's never easy on the road. It's never easy up in Reno. I didn't check what the weather is going to be like just yet, but it can get a little cold. It can get a little wet up there. We'll see. And we know that Hawaii hasn't necessarily had the greatest success on the road. They've only won, I think, a couple of times up there. The 2007 year, right? The Dan Kelly field goal, and then Rolo's team. What was that, 2019? Where they just stomped Nevada that year. Like 50-something to 3 or whatever it was. Got out quick. So this This is one of those, you know. I think if they can just get something going offensively earlier, we see a bit of what we saw early on from this Hawaii defense, where they were playing physical, a little bit of an edge to them. I think they've got a chance here. Again, they're 3.5-point dogs on the road. It's pretty much a toss-up game. When you look at it, it's just a little nerve-wracking when you're this nervous going into a game like this against a Nevada team that's reeling in a lot of ways similar to Hawaii.
It's kind of been the tale for the season too, at least with this rendition of the run and shoot, where we've put it on film that we can hit the long ball, and teams are going to prepare for that against us on two folds. One, cover it deep so he can't throw it that far, and cover it deep to keep the ball in his hands long enough that we can get some pressure on him, because this whole line is gettable. I'm just speaking on behalf of how teams are probably preparing against us. And with that in mind, hit the flats, take the hitches, take the outs, take the corners. There are plenty of run and shoot routes where we can get it out quick and just eat that up. Eat it up. I would be fine, Jordan, with 3 and outs with 3 hitches and we're a yard shy. Honestly, I would be fine with that, because we're giving our playmakers opportunities in space to try to break a tackle and see what happens. And for a team that can't run the ball, those are high percentage plays. And we've got to get back, in some senses, to a little bit of the bread and butter or meat and potatoes. That's a better way of putting it. The substance of what makes the run and shoot special. So go out there, put one play in front of the other. I think about it like golf. You can't think about the final score when you're on second hole. One swing at a time, one great decision at a time. Put a good swing on the ball, a good throw on the ball. That's how I would advise this team to kind of put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I'm with you there. High is 64 on Saturday, low of 42, 12% chance of precipitation. Cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy in the afternoons. Not terrible. Not terrible. That's the forecast right now for Reno for this group. Again, you can catch that 10 a.m. Hawaii kickoff for this group, as the Bows will, as usual, be on our ESPN Honolulu coverage. That's a 1 p.m. local kickoff there in Reno. All right, let's transition into some of your comments. It's nice to have the YouTube back, because that's seemingly where we get the bulk of our
shout out to our digital
here.
team.
Yeah. Shout outs to our guys, Jonathan, Jaron, all of them. Big shout out to Anthony for dropping us a line there. Talked about nice being positive about Hawaii football. We try there. Our guy Justin as well, doing a lot of the coverage, dropping us a line. So shout out to him. And shout out to Koa, who said he watches the ads in full so we can get paid. So my man, we appreciate that. And said he appreciates all the ESPN Honolulu coverage as well. All right, let's get into some of it.
Nothing from Al.
We got our guy Al from VA, of course.
Okay, there it is.
The line here. He brought up the transfer portal a little bit here, talking about maybe some questionable decisions by guys to leave mid-season. And we talked a little bit about that in the first half of the pod as well. He misses Hunter Romo Hughes game predictions. So maybe we'll bring that back. We'll ask Hunter for a game prediction here that we were doing a little bit earlier in the season. So I guess it's my fault for not asking Hunter there. And then we got a couple of good ones, I think, some nice conversation starters, if you will. Al brought up, because it was homecoming, right? He brought up, I'll just read the comment. UH President David Lassner /AD Craig Angelis should seek good aloha and make things right with all concerned by inviting Coach Todd Graham to the game, present the Dick Tomey Trophy to the victor. This was obviously leading up to the San Jose game. UH leadership should set the example and seek closure in this regard by patching up a wound that's never been treated in the right way Additionally, I predict such an action puts 3,000 additional fans in the stands just out of curiosity alone and sets social media, quote, on fire. And in a good way for the program. Let's generate some revenue, clicks, and peace out with Coach Todd Graham for homecoming. It might be a little too soon. I'm just going to kind of put that out there. It wasn't the greatest of exits from Al, and not from Al, from the Graham era. I appreciate what Al brings up here, right? It's always good to kind of provide some closure. I think it's a little soon when it all comes down to that. There were a lot of burnt bridges on both sides of that whole thing. But I will agree on one thing. It would generate a lot of clicks. It would generate a lot of social media interaction if all of a sudden Todd Graham were to show up at the homecoming game. That I can guarantee.
It would also generate
give it a little, maybe give it a
booze.
while. Maybe give it, it's a little fresh. It's a little fresh. It's only been a couple of years. It's a coaching staff that is obviously trying to transition. I think Timmy and his guys have done a great job of really not talking about the previous regime at all. And they've just been pointed forward. And obviously he's got guys on his staff who coached under Graham as well in Jake Yoro and Jordan Pooh Robinson, amongst others. So yeah, I am very intrigued by Al's outside the box thinking when it comes to the marketing. Maybe you can sell a few more tickets, say, hey, come see the spectacle. But yeah, in terms of just going over smoothly, maybe give it a little time.
I'm going to slightly change the subject, but it's an Al from VA thought here. This past game was the first game that Eddie Osei Nicotia was in pads and
dressed. Yeah. Oh, okay. See, damn, I missed the game. See, I missed this.
That's okay. And let me tell you, that guy is ready to run. I mean, the most energy on the sideline of anybody, any two players combined. He literally looks like a racehorse in stocks before a race, like just giddy and full of just nervous athletic energy needing to be put somewhere. Like he's jumping up and down, doing the frog jump with the knees all the way up by the head, like
a sprinter ready to go.
If we could just teach him how to catch a football, he'd be ready to go right now. I don't think the hands are quite there. I've seen them at practice, or his understanding of football just yet, but give it some time. We're going to know that name before he's done.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? And you and I have had that conversation on the sidelines because my guy, even without pads, just all kinds of energy. My guy is always moving, and that dude is big. Yeah. I know Al's been a big proponent of Eon.
Yeah.
But there's 4 games left. And so for some of these guys who haven't seen the field, if you're going to redshirt this year, you can still play in 4 games, up to 4 games, right, at redshirt. And so I don't know, maybe we see some of these guys over the course of the last 4 weeks. Because there's no eligibility to be lost by putting them on the field here. Maybe the last couple of home games we could see. Yeah, just, I don't know, have Eddie run down on a kickoff. Hand it to him on a little jet sweep or something, turn the corner like the 200. I don't know. It'd be fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell you what, that guy's ready to go. That guy's ready to go.
I don't care who you are on defense. You see that guy running at you, and there's a thought. There's a thought. It may not be long, but okay, how am I going to tackle this guy?
There we go. You know what? Third down's been atrocious. Just put him at end, 2-point stance, or 3-point. I don't know. That's what they do in track, right? And on third down, just tell him to go run after the quarterback. It's very high school. It's very simplistic, but I don't know. Why not?
If we can teach, I'm going to talk with Coach Jared Ursua. If we can teach him how to run a go route, and if we can teach him how to run a back shoulder, he's a 2-route wide receiver. Seriously, that's all we need.
That's what DK Metcalf does. Run let's just go get it. Just go get it. Yeah, all right. That's something to look forward to. I like it. Maybe we should have saved that one for last. One other one here from Al Bundy 550. So shout out to old Al here. He brought up a really good point, I thought. He talks about, he's not sure why everybody's so surprised with where Hawaii's at this year. Said he's been a Hawaii football fan for decades. He actually predicted 3 wins this season, just like last year. I think I had them at 5. I thought there'd be a little bit of an improvement, in terms of win. The way the schedule's set up, right? I thought New Mexico and Nevada were going to be 2 of those wins along the way. Hasn't quite worked out that way just yet, is obviously. And so, he brings up a good point, because so much has been the talk, right? And obviously with June being in attendance on Saturday, it brings up a lot of the same things, right? Two phrases, if you will, that get Hawaii football fans on social media buzzing like no other is run and shoot and June Jones. And so, obviously June Jones was like trending, if you will. I don't think officially trending, but basically among the group chats and the social media. And it's like, look, that I get it, right? A lot of this is on the previous athletic director, in how they kind of, how David Matley kind of handled things from the Graham hire after the Rolo exit to the transition after Todd Graham as well. And Al points out, he says Chang is a good coach, but he is years away from turning this program around. I'm afraid his inexperience is shining and has since the beginning of the season. And I think that's a good reminder, because in a lot of ways, right, if you had hired June, like the expectation was immediate, gratification, like you expected wins immediately. And it wasn't necessarily laid out this way, but if you're going to hire a guy who hasn't been a head coach, right, who's only been a coordinator at the FCS and Division II levels, and a guy who's taken on that responsibility as well, and Al points that out, as a play caller, like he's got to grow into that. This is going to be a process, and people maybe have been a little harsh in questioning his play calling, but it was a longer process. Like it was always going to be a longer learning curve for Timmy than some of the other candidates out there, right? Because this is his first go around, and so you've got to be able to be willing to go through the growing pains. And Al points out, he says bottom line, his UH is right where it should be again this year, a 3-win season matching last year. The likely results, whole process will take 4 to 5 years to develop into something special. But he points out, he closes with the question is, can the UH fans wait that many years? Only time will tell. Enough said. And I think that's kind of the thing here, right? I tend to agree, and we, I think we haven't really tried to make many excuses or anything for Timmy and the coaching staff here, but it was going to be a longer learning curve. Like that was just a reality of things, and especially with all the roster turnover last year and all the transfers, and him taking over the play calling duties this year and everything that goes with it. I think it's understandable to take that perspective. I think it's a logical argument when you sort of assess where the team is at. I think the problem with it, and Al kind of touches on it, it's such a crossroads time for Hawaii football with the stadium situation, with the NIL era upon us, with the transfer portal in full swing, with conference realignment continuing to be unstable, and maybe it stabilized a little bit with the Pac-12 disintegrating, and who knows what becomes of the Mountain West along with Oregon State and Washington State. But it is, it seems like there's an existential crisis in college football every year. But for Hawaii, like it really is a bit of a crossroads moment with everything that is going on. And so how long can you give, right? Or how long can you afford a coaching staff? And I'm not saying like Timmy Chang needs to be fired tomorrow or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because I think we've seen, you and I, Hunter, and especially you being around a lot of these guys, a lot of the good, and
unbelievable,
and, what he brings to this program as an alum, as a local guy, and everything that comes with it. I'm in full support. I'm not saying anything like that, but it's such a crossroads for this program where they've got to get things right. Like, and again, the coaching staff is fully aware of that, meaning you got to win football games. And so, yeah, I thought it was interesting that Al brought that up. Some good comments this week. I like it from our guys, Al, both from VA and Al Bundy here, dropping us some stuff. Shout out to the other guys as well. So yeah, your thoughts on that, Hunter? I'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a good point, and kind of along with that, I see a lot on Timmy's shoulders right now. A lot where he's kind of attempting to shoulder this weight almost single-handedly on his own. I think it's a public thing that he's not only the head coach, but he's also the play caller. And we also don't have a quarterbacks coach on the coaching staff right now. And so he's also the pseudo quarterbacks coach. A lot of teams, that's 3 different coaches right there. In comparison to the Rollo era, whenever we did shift to the run and shoot, you had 3 guys on the team or on the coaching staff that played under that offense: Rollo, Stutz, and Brian Smith. And comparatively right now, outside of Timmy and Coach Nate Allow, that's it. And I'm not saying the other coaches can't learn it, but it certainly is easier. It's a little easier when you have some minds in there that can kind of bounce off of each other and almost dance together in creating this offense. So it's been a thought. Again, I think compared to the previous regime, it's funny that Al from VA even brought up the Graham era, because the mood on the sideline, the appreciation from the faithful down there on the field and in the community for this staff and the team is night and day what it was whenever Graham was here. So I think Mr. Bundy put it really well, that it's going to take some time, and we just got to kind of ride with it and kind of see what happens.
Yeah, and I think the bigger picture question, fair or unfair, what's the timeline afforded to Coach Timmy Chang and his group? How patient will fans be? How impactful is that timeline when it comes to the stadium and the program and everything that comes around with it? Again, fair or not, right? That's just kind of the reality of it. All right, quick little 2-minute drill to wrap up, and then we'll get Hunter's prediction on the score for Saturday's game. Only thing I got, Air Force checking in at number 25 in the initial college football playoff rankings, which were released yesterday. Again, that was Tuesday on Halloween. They are behind Tulane. So Air Force, obviously, the Mountain West best hope right now of trying to be that highest ranked group of 5 team and get into a New Year's 6 bowl game, which obviously means money. And that goes to everybody in the conference a little bit, at least. So, cheering them on as they go forward, because that could help out Hawaii in the long run there. All right, I'll toss it over to you, Hunter, for the final word and your prediction, because backed by popular demand, we need a number.
Whew, okay. Outside of that,
no pressure.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think our Bears don't look all that bad these days, Jordan, in comparison to maybe some other teams in the
better
NFL.
Than the Raiders. It's a low bar.
I think that could maybe serve as maybe a moniker, if you will, to quote Jim Nantz, a moniker of things to come for maybe Hawaii football, that things can look a little different towards the end of the year. And with that being said, I'm going to go Hawaii 28, Nevada 21.
Let's go.
Weekend.
There we go. Hawaii 28, Nevada 21. You heard it here first, everybody. Vicky Valancourt style. Just calling the score. That's how we do it here on Hawaii Football Now. All right, that'll do it for us. Big thanks to Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA, Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill. Big thanks to my guy Hunter. Thanks to all of you on the comments as well. Good stuff. Keep it coming. We encourage that every week. YouTube, Facebook, all the other social media platforms. Hit us up there. We appreciate it. Big thanks to our guy Jonathan for producing this episode of HFN as well. We'll see you next week, everybody.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.